Poland's nationalist-populist president Andrzej Duda has won re-election, beating out a George Soros-linked globalist leftist challenger. In this video, we're going to take a look at the results of yesterday's presidential election in Poland, and we're going to see precisely why it was but the latest victory in Poland's massive shift to the nationalist-populist right that's even now changing the face of Europe into a rising conservative continent. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here. I certainly hope you're all doing well in the midst of what just appears to be some pretty increasing insanity, particularly here in this nation. If this is your first time here with us and you're looking for some daily encouragement and optimism, as well as some analysis to help you make sense of what often seems insanity, you have found your oasis in this channel. We post 2 videos a day analyzing current events and some super awesome conservative trends so you can live in the present light of even better things to come. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that subscribe button. It'd be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel where each and every day we get to celebrate together the inevitable collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. Now, before we dive into things here in Poland, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that's the makers of the beautiful Fighter Flare flashlight. One of the best things that you can invest in for your protection when the lights go out is this 6-in-1 beauty, which comes with a 3,000 mAh solar-powered recharging battery, equipped with a high and low beam light that you can see from miles away. I know my son's flashed in my face. There's an emergency strobe light, a compass, a wire and rope cutter, an emergency glass breaker, hammer, and a high-powered military-grade magnets. Absolutely amazing. And best of all, as a Turley talker, you get 25% off the new 2020 model before they sell out. But supply is limited, so do not wait. Click on that link below and get your super awesome Fighter Flare flashlight today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. The nation of Poland held their long-awaited presidential election the other day, and I am very happy to report that the nationalist-populist conservative candidate Andrzej Duda has won. He has beaten his leftist globalist candidate rival Rafał Trzaskowski. Now, President Duda has been in power for the past 5 years, and he's officially been reelected, given another 5 years by the Polish people. It was a huge turnout. Nearly 70% of Polish voters came out to cast their votes for the president, and it was a very close battle, so much so that the liberal media, the mainstream Marxist media in the weeks leading up, thought that the leftist globalist candidate could very possibly pull off an upset against the nationalist populist Duda. And so in the days leading up to this election, these left-wing activists disguised as journalists, they were just rubbing their hands going, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, please knock off this nationalist populist president. And then we can run around for like the next several weeks celebrating how nationalist populism is finally coming to an end in Europe. Oh, and yes, it's definitely coming to the end in the United States. Donald Trump is the next nationalist populist president to fall. Yay, we can't wait. Globalism is back. Yay, that's that's all you would have heard over the last several weeks that this leftist globalist candidate pulled it off. But alas, it was not to be. The conservative Andrzej Duda has in fact been declared the winner, and the leftist globalist media is having a collective meltdown over it. Look at this from the British Independent. Oh, they're so pathetic. Poland's anti-LGBT president Andrzej Duda wins re-election. Darn it. You backwards Poles. What's the matter with you? We're so hoping that this leftist globalist candidate could pull it off. What's the matter with you Polish people? Well, alas, Duda ran a very effective campaign in the midst of the whole coronavirus insanity going on in Poland. I mean, Poland's experiencing the same thing the rest of us are. In fact, the presidential election had to be postponed from May because the virus was deemed to be too disruptive to hold a fair and accurate election. But that didn't stop Duda from launching a very effective campaign against an admittedly very popular leftist mayor of Warsaw, this fellow Rafał Trzaskowski. One of the things that Duda did is he effectively linked Trzaskowski with George Soros, who's really despised in Poland. Soros is very, very unpopular, but as it turns out, this leftist globalist, this guy Trzaskowski, he admitted that he received a scholarship from the globalist oligarch George Soros and attended a California Bilderberg conference. And that's all Duda had to see. And he just crushed Trzaskowski with that Soros association. Now, if you're not familiar with the politics of Poland, many scholars believe, and I think they're right on this one, many scholars would argue that the new wave of nationalist populism that swept throughout Europe over the last few years and here in the United States and all, it really began with Poland when the conservative nationalist populist Law and Justice Party first came to power back in 2015. In many respects, it was Poland that set up the Brexit shocker in 2016. It set up the rise of Marine Le Pen in France, the rise of the Alternative for Germany in 2017, as well as the rise of the Nationalist Right Coalition in Austria, the rise of Lega and Matteo Salvini in Italy, the rise of Sweden Democrats, the True Finns, the Danish People's Party in Scandinavia, Vox in Spain, the Conservative People's Party in Estonia. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Many scholars would argue that it was Poland that really got the nationalist ball rolling here back in 2015. The Law and Justice Party back then was the opposition party. Poland had basically been ruled by a center-left liberal globalist government more or less since communism fell there. It was ruled by center-left globalists who wanted to modernize Poland and bring it up to speed with other leftist globalist nations, prioritizing unfettered immigration, global capitalism, liberal lifestyle values and the like, pushing the church, out of the public square. The standard globalist one-size-fits-all approach to politics and economy and culture. Well, Poles weren't going to stand for that. They are a prime example of what scholars call retraditionalization, right? We talk so much about that funny term on this channel. Retraditionalization is the notion that in the face of threats to the defining identity markers so central to a people group, those people groups reassert their historic customs, cultures, traditions, their religious traditions, as mechanisms of resistance against the anti-cultural, anti-traditional processes of globalization and its secular aristocracy. And so, the Law and Justice Party emerged after the 2015 election as the single largest political party in Poland. In fact, just to give you really an idea of how impressive this victory was for the nationalist populace, the Law and Justice Party back in 2015 was the first political party to win an outright parliamentary majority in Poland's post-communist history. That's what kind of blowout that election was. And shortly after their electoral victory, the Law and Justice Party sponsored a Catholic Mass that was televised live throughout Poland, which officially declared Jesus Christ as Lord and King over their nation. Now, of course, the President Andrzej Duda was there, the Prime Minister, and it was there as well. And it was astonishing testimony to the surge in nationalist conservatism sweeping their nation. And so, needless to say, the last 4 or 5 years have seen an extraordinary transformation of Poland into an officially conservative Christian nation. In the process, Poland has been constantly harassed by the EU, by the bullies in Brussels. Much like the swamp is constantly harassing President Trump today. They've been accused of dictatorial authoritarianism and all kinds of nonsense. But then, to the horror of globalists all over the world, the Polish people went back to the polls for their next national election, which was in October of last year, to vote for their parliament. And the Conservative Law and Justice Party scored an overwhelming victory once again. In fact, they actually expanded their majority. They went from around 38% of the vote back in 2015 to 45% of the vote in 2019. An astounding victory. Again, just to give you an idea of their dominance, the Globalist Party, which is the centrist civic coalition that was once led by the infamous Donald Tusk, one of the major bullies in Brussels, the Civic Coalition got just a little over half of what the Law and Justice got in terms of their percentage. They only got about 26% of the vote. So the sentiments of polls clearly have shifted to the nationalist populist right. And this shift has been bolstered of late by the success of what's known as the Cookies Party, which is another nationalist populist right party. It coalitions with the Law and Justice Party and their parliamentary system there. They got about 9% of the vote in their national elections back in last October. And another nationalist right-wing party called Confederacja, They got 7% of the vote. So as of last October, a clear 60% plus majority of polls voted for the nationalist-populist right. Absolutely stunning supermajority. And that national election came on the heels of the Law and Justice victory in the European Parliament elections back in May. We spent, if you were with us back then, we put a lot of time and videos into that. But I don't know if you know that all left-wing parties in Poland coalition together to try to defeat the Law and Justice Party. And what happened was that a number of pro-EU globalist parties formed a coalition. They called themselves, it's just an opposition European coalition. And the idea was that by banding together, these leftist parties thought they could beat out the reigning Nationalist Law and Justice Party and bring a victory for pro-EU forces, okay? But alas, again, it was not to be. The Nationalist Right Law and Justice Party won the European elections, getting a comparable 44% of the vote as over and against the opposition coalition that took around 39%. So now, with the presidential elections over and the nationalist populace scoring yet another victory, it's absolutely clear that the nation of Poland has become a major international leader in the growing list of nationalist populist countries that are indeed together ushering in a new conservative age. Well done, Poland. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video. I just uploaded it on President Trump telling the Democrat governor of Minnesota to shove it, as this leftist governor had the goal to request that American taxpayers pay for all the damage left behind from our nation's rioters. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to make your day. Make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.